Hey, what's up, guys? How is everyone doing? So, I have something special for you today. So, Armored Core, the last Armored Core that came out is Armored Core Verdict Day, which is the one you're seeing on screen right now. It is not my footage. So, here's the deal. I used to play with some great guys back in the day. When I say back in the day, I mean like years ago, like 9 years ago. So it's been almost 10 years. But when the Armored Core 6 trailer came out, I've got contacted by some of my buddies who played with me back then, and my friend KB here still has his Xbox 360 and still even has some of the mechs that we designed together and that we played together with. And this is what you're seeing on screen. So he was kind enough to send me footage. He opened back up his Xbox 360 and sent me footage of just a bunch of things to help me show you guys like what Armored Core customization and everything is all about. So we're lucky today. We have some customization footage for Armored Core Verdict Day, graciously from my friend KB. Big shout out to KB. So what you're seeing on screen, pretty much, I wanted to show you guys, the extent of how the customization works in Armored Core games. What you're seeing on screen is, my the base of one of my sniper build. And there's so many parts. When we say like internal chip, the boosters, the generators, the head, there's so many parts to choose from. It's pretty nuts. And that's what you're seeing on screen right now. I would go into more details about the stats and everything, but for the most part, I think a lot of this is going to change in Armored Core 6. Like for instance, if we talk about the defense here, let me pull up some more footage real quick. If we talk about let's say defense, so if we look, for instance, we have like cores here, different body parts for the core of an AC. And KB pulls up the page here. We can see the stats for various things. We have AP, which is pretty much your HP. So the cores have an HP stat. There's a here in Armored Core a Verdict Day. There was three types of defenses. In most Armored Core games, the most common you would see were TE and KE, which is kinetic energy and thermal energy. But in Armored Core 5, they put an emphasis on chemical energy as well. So you had three types of defenses. We don't know if in the next Armored Core it's going to be only kinetic and thermal energy, or if chemical energy is going to be there as well. But for the most part, you had to build around three types of defenses. You had your total weight, which had to be under a specific amount, your total stability, recoil resistance, turning performance, which was very important. Turning performance were a big deal. Energy recovery, which was different than your total energy capacity. And repair costs. So if your mech gets completely destroyed, how much does it cost to repair it? So you could actually make a cheap mech for missions, like cheap disposable mech, especially for AI units if you're planning to use them a lot. So all fun things to consider. And here for the core, there wasn't as many stats as some other parts, but here you have max recon units. So those were to detect enemy units. You could throw these as some sort of like consumable, if you may. Like you throw those out there, and that's how you detect the other opponents and whatnot, or the enemies. There was a bunch of different things, but for the most part, the most important things that you were looking for at first were usually the weight and the energy consumption. So you had a maximum amount of energy output and a maximum amount of weight you could hold for each and every AC. Let's take a look, for instance, at the legs, because the legs determined that was not my AC, by the way. That's a KB's Christmas tree. We're going to take a look at paint jobs and customizations regarding the colors as well. Actually, we don't get to see some of the legs. One second, let me see if I can find some footage for the legs here. There you go. Here are some leg parts. So the legs, see, you got the same thing. You had movement control, which defined kind of the speed. The turning performance were closely related to the legs. You had the jumping performance. So, for instance, we had like different types of legs. So you had like bipedal legs, closer to what you would imagine for a normal AC. You know, stuff like this, for instance. Those were lightweight legs. You had legs like this. You had bigger legs, like let's pull it up here. These were more like medium legs, for instance. You had more medium legs, but a little bit more bulky. And the bigger you went, like this, for instance, these were fairly heavy legs, more defensive oriented, a bit slower, but still had the mobility of a bipedal. So, you know, you had really different play styles for each legs, which all had their sort of mobility. And then if we keep going further, you're going to see more leg parts. Let's see if we can find some jump legs. So here, for instance, you see those are like inverted legs. Inverted legs like these had better jumping capabilities. They were better to do like to hop around, so to, you know, get a lot of height. So, you know, each and every leg were good for different playstyle and specific movements. So let's see if we can find more leg types. We have more inverted legs, but heavier legs. Like this, for instance. These were very heavy inverted legs, which had a lot of stability. Stability was related to the fire rate as well of your weapon. So they could slightly increase your fire rate the more stability you had. So some of these inverted heavy legs had good stability. Let's keep going with this, because there's even more different types of legs. Here you go. This is what I was looking for. There's even quad legs. We see quad legs in the trailer. Those are fairly heavy quad legs. Let's take a look here. There were also more lightweight quad legs, like what we're seeing here. These quad legs were more light, so you could still have a quad that was more lightweight. There was always a more light and a more heavy variation for each body part, and everything in between. What was specific about the quad legs, though, the quads were very good to hover and keep your altitude. So every time you had a quad, you had a lot of stability, so good fire rate. You were able to hover for long periods of times, and they usually were pretty balanced as far as defense went. The downside, though, is that you lost a lot of speed that and maneuverability that some of the bipedal legs had, and same with some of the more lightweight legs, obviously, that were more centered around speed. And then finally, we go to the tank legs. So the tank legs, you know, tank legs were all about that defense and that weight capacity. So you knew that when you made a tank, you were going for like high amount of defense, and you could strap pretty much any weapons you wanted on a tank. So that was kind of the whole idea. Tank was all about high defense and high firepower with limited mobility. So here we see, you know, so many stats here if we look at a tank leg page. And the reason for it is you had to remove some of the boosters on normal leg parts, and the tank legs came with some of their own boosters as well. Here, for instance, we take a look at the loading capacity. We have, what is it, 8,700. And if we compared that to some of the legs from earlier, look at that loading capacity, 5,200 compared to the tank legs. See if I can find them back. Let's see. Yeah, so we went from like you know, a good like 6,000 to 8,000. So it really made a huge difference. I'm not going to go over every single stats, and to be quite frank, I don't even remember what everything does, because, you know, this game is 9 years old. I haven't played that in quite a long time, so I don't remember what every single thing does, but for the most part, these were some of the more notable differences between various parts. Let's take a look at some of the weapons, because you had a lot of variety of different weapons. You know, you had chemical weapons that shot kind of like they were sort of similar to like grenade launchers in some some way. You know, it had like pretty low travel speed for the chemical weapons, for the bullets, and they hit pretty hard. And then you had what we're seeing here. We had like thermal weapons, so these were like thermal kind of submachine guns or machine guns. Those were fairly light, but they also took your energy when you shot it. So there was all kind of DPS weapons. So here we're looking at like plasma cannons, plasma guns, or I should say, all kinds of things. Usually plasma guns were shot like very slow, but they were pretty good at close range versus certain things. You had laser rifles that you could charge. You had here actually we had melee weapons. These are all pile drivers, which had a limited amount. So these, like for instance, this one had only 2 uses. So you could only go for that melee attack twice, but when it hit, see here, if you can see CE attack power 66,000, whereas if we look at our total AP here for our unit is 45,000. So there was a good chance that if you landed a hit with this pile driver, it was a one shot. If you didn't have like very strong CE defense. So again, this is a different types of blades. Again, on melee weapons. Next one is some of those are big auto cannons. So those were more for tanks. So these big machine guns were for tanks. If you could have used these machine guns on non-tank mechs, but the thing was you had to be standing still when using it. So that was pretty much useless to do that, and you could only use one of them at a time. So it was pretty much a no-go. A lot of these cannons, it was not worth it to use on anything but a tank, except the sniper cannon, which you could use to get very, very long-range shots, and you really did not necessarily want to move while using those. But it's fun because every weapon had a different play style, different way they could be used on the best possible mechs and whatnot. So there was a lot of variety when it comes to weapon. And as you're seeing, there's a lot of difference. You can see the tuning here, which we know is going to come back in Armored Core 6, the weapon tuning. So I don't particularly know by heart which bar is what, but you could have tuned for damage, range, you know, accuracy. So I don't necessarily remember which bar represents what in this, but you had different tuning that you could go for each weapon. And it could change like some of the way it could be used in game. For instance, if you had a weapon that had very slow bullet travel time, maybe you could have increased that by weapon tuning this specific weapon to be better at something it was lacking. Or you could have gone straight up for more DPS, going for just normal damage tuning, get the highest amount of DPS possible. There was a lot of different variations for even the same weapon. Let's keep going. Let's see what else we got. You know, more cannons. We got a sniper cannon here. Let's see if we can take a good look. We get a quick look here. We don't fully get to see it, but here are basically big sniper cannons that are sort of like held in a non-ready position. So how this would work usually is if you were about to go on against an enemy team, you would set up like one of your mechs on your side, one of your team members, to set up a sniper cannon so that you could take out a lot of the bigger defenses from the opposition before engaging. So right from the get-go, you would set up a sniper cannon to destroy some of the more dangerous defenses, and then afterward, once you were done with it, you would purge the weapon, because big cannons like that, you can't switch your weapon and keep it. You have to purge it. So basically, you would bring the sniper cannon to the battlefield for the sole purpose of taking out a few defenses and then purging it afterward. So it would create an expense for the team, but it was for a good cause, because you know, you were going in with a much better chance at winning the game, because you would take out a lot of more dangerous defenses right from the get-go. So as you can see, like different weapons had different purpose here. You can get a better look at another sniper cannon. You can see here. Let's take a look at more weapons. Those were big howitzer, I believe. We're into the territory of like much bigger weapons here. Those were mostly weapons used on tanks, because those are all like stationary cannons. So like I said, you needed to be standing still to use those unless you were on a tank. So you were pretty much never really seeing those weapons on anything but tanks. Which is fine, that's how the game was kind of balanced overall. Like the very strong weapons were pretty much for tank builds, whereas some of the other units, like this is interesting. So these were turret units. So you basically had this pad here that you could carry. You could put that on your back, and then what this would do is you would just leave some small turrets or small machine guns on the battlefield, and these would be automated units. So you just leave them there and they just shoot at everything that's enemy that's in range. So you could kind of set up some little turrets here next to some objective, for instance, to let them destroy an objective while you were going to fight another robot. Or you could use them to fight other enemy ACs as well. It was depending on what your strategy was, but there was definitely a variety of uses for these droppable little turrets. And the maximum number that you could use was also varied depending on, various things. Here you get another type of turret. This one was a small turret that did chemical energy, so a little kind of a small grenade launcher pretty much, but automated a turret that you left on the floor as well. Same thing here. I believe those were either thermal, I think. Those were little thermal turrets as well. I think you had missile ones, I'm not sure. But yeah, you had pretty much all kinds of small sentry guns like this that you left on the floor. There you go. Those were, I believe those were missile launchers that you left on the floor. So pretty interesting stuff, honestly. There's just so much to look at, so many different parts. Here, these are radar jammers. You could also jam radars, so you would leave kind of like a radar jammer, and this had an area of effect, and it's kind of stayed at the same spot, and you could use that to trick opponents and jam their radar nearby and kind of feint going into a direction and like feint going somewhere else and stuff like that. You had shields as well. Shields were basically to kind of neutralize one specific damage type. So you had KE shield, kinetic shields, which is what you're seeing on screen here. You had thermal shields and chemical shields. This is a chemical shield. Let's see here. We're about to get to thermal shield soon. There you go. This was a thermal shield. So you had different shield types for different, different attack types. And you pretty much wanted to go for a shield like this when the enemy had a very powerful specific type of cannon. So if you knew that the enemy you were going against had a very big energy, thermal energy cannon, well, maybe you wanted to bring your thermal shield to the battlefield. And maybe you could also design a mech that had very strong kinetic defense and chemical defense, but you were low on thermal energy. Well, you'd compensate by bringing a thermal shield maybe to the battlefield as well. So you had different ways you could use them and different kind of build that you could do with different strategies, different use case for everything. Here you're seeing small handguns. Handguns usually were very lightweight, high stagger, kind of low amount of damage, but most of these cannons were used sort of like as backup weapons for the most part. You had sniper rifles here as well. Sniper rifles, I don't really need to explain much. This is one of the weapon types I used to really like playing with, because those were long range weapon, kind of high burst of damage in one shot. So it had very, very slow reload time, but the idea with playing with sniper cannons was you would go for pop shots. So you just hit once, get behind cover, go out of cover, hit again, go back in cover, and kind of mitigate that high reload time by going into cover and back and forth. Sorry if the video is glitched out. This is just, the way file compression is sometimes when you send it over the internet and whatnot. But here are a bunch of like various parts, sniper cannons. These are so many weapons that this game had. Honestly, I cannot even go, if you look at KB here, just going through all the list of weapons, just, you know, seeing all the types of weapons you can have on a mech. It's just absolutely insane, the amount of customization that was possible and the amount of variety. And, you know, these are just weapons. There's also missiles. You know, there's head parts. There's just so many different things that you could put on your AC and how you could customize it. But let's take a look before we end this at some of the things I like the most, which is paint jobs and decal customization. So take a look at this. So, okay, this is a good view here. We get a color set, we get the color, the pattern, and then you get 4 colors for each and every single individual part. Or you could decide to paint all of them at the same time. Just paint the frame, you know, just paint the weapons. You could choose as well. But if you wanted to go into the nitty gritty, you could pick and choose each and every individual parts. So you had the main color, which was like the bulk of a piece. Then the subcolor, which could have been like a another color that took like a large portion of each part. And then you had the other subcolor, which was, you know, like sometimes little details like that and whatnot, you know, little squares. And then you had the glow, which was every little light that you see on your robot. You could decide like which color you wanted the light. So this is usually what the glow was. And then let's take a look at the pattern. Oh, there you go, right here. Let's take a look at the pattern. Oh, these are color palettes, so you could like pre-make color palettes and apply them, or you could decide individually, you know, the exact RGB for each color when creating a color palette. So as you can see, like the customization is pretty, you know, it's as far as you can push it or as you wanted to push it. I just want to show you the pattern though. Let's see if we can find it. No, I saw it earlier. There you go, right here. So here you're seeing they had a bunch of different patterns that you could use. So you could get like camo, you know, various digital pattern, flame patterns, stars, whatnot. So these were like base pattern to go by. You could not create your own pattern, but there was even better than this. You could create your own decals, which is where we're going to go with this. So here you go. These are kind of like all custom images made by the player. So as you're seeing here, you know, you make these image as emblems, and then you can use them as an emblem or as decal on your mech. So you could kind of transform this image and apply it directly as a sticker on your character. And I'm going to have some examples to show you as well. So let's just take a look at what the kind of editor looks like. That's all in game. So from all these shapes, like the person here is able to create like some sort of galaxy here. And you know, some emblems look better than other, and that's fine. You know, so this is how you do it. You grab one of the shapes that's there, and then you can kind of transform it as you want it. Like see here, he's like bending the image, and then you decide to apply it wherever, you know, how small, how big you want. And that's how you create a bunch of images from here. You know, it was kind of difficult to make a good looking image in this game. But there was a lot of choice for various shapes here. It was kind of like a mini editing software built within the game just for that. Like here, let's take a look. You know, these were some of the emblems we had on the team. Most of them I had made myself, but let's take a look at some other ones. So like this, for instance, this was like sort of like just a cool little normal emblem. Very simple, but you know, you made this by putting on top of each other a bunch of circle and creating various shapes and whatnot. So it was pretty cool to play around with this and then to apply them as a decal. So here we get a good example. So you can create, you know, little mouth like that. and then apply it like in front of your AC, kind of like to simulate like a shark mouth, or like some of what these old planes had, you know, the old like shark mouth on planes, and you could kind of apply that. So, you know, this is like just basic stuff that we're showing here, but you could really push that a lot further. You know, take your time with this, make something really cool. You were not limited to only one decal. You could put multiple of these decals on your AC, and, you know, change the shape and size and whatnot. So if we take a look, for instance, at I know I saw earlier, like this is a good example here. This is one of my friend's AC here. So he put like some very big decal on the legs here, which does not necessarily always look nice, but I just wanted to show you that you could kind of extend and transform the image to like pretty much take up like the entire space. As you can see, like the potential for customizing your mech is really like legitimately endless, as you can pretty much customize every image that you want in game and then put it on top of your AC and make it look exactly how you want to. So, you know, again, like you see a pattern on one arm, you know, the chest piece is straight, has a little decal on the mount here, and has a mess of a decal on the legs. You can do really anything you want. You know, the gun's purple, you know, the top is black. It's really, you know, it's up to the player. They can do whatever they want. So as you're seeing here, so much. It's really amazing, honestly. These were some of the big weapons in the game. I was not a big fan of those because those were one-shotting, but again, you know, this is Armored Core 5, this is not Armored Core 6, but it's just to show you guys kind of like all the potential that that these games have in terms of customization. Like what kind of customization we're talking about when we say that Armored Core is all about customization. What should you expect for Armored Core 6? Honestly, you should not expect anything less than what I'm showing you right now. So this is the type of customization you will have access to when you get to play Armored Core 6. So I hope you guys enjoyed this vid. Thank you so much again to KB who made this video possible by sending me a bunch of clips and recordings of various things that he recorded. So it was a blast to go through all of this and check out like some of the parts and whatnot, which I don't have access to any of this anymore as I don't have an Xbox 360, but that was great. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll catch you guys up next time. Take it easy.